That's why some people just can't stop emotional offloading. It became eye-rolling, side comments, and gossip. Whispers framed as bonding. Bullying didn't end in high school. It actually got better disguises. Adult bullying and emotional offloading in the adult world isn't harmless. It's actually emotional immaturity dressed up in adult clothes. And shame they don't want to feel.
Check one, check.
You know, a lot of people think that emotional maturity comes naturally with age, but it doesn't. It actually comes with self-awareness. And some people simply never develop it. You know, and here's something we don't talk often enough. Adult bullying and emotional offloading in the adult world isn't harmless. It's not venting, it's not just talking, and it's definitely not connection. It's actually emotional immaturity dressed up in adult clothes. Emotionally mature people don't need to talk about others to make themselves feel better. They don't bond through criticism, and they don't build bonds by tearing other people down. They don't create intimate relationships through contempt. That behavior isn't confidence, it's actually avoidance. When somebody emotional offloads onto others, they're not sharing information, they're regulating emotion that they don't know how to sit with. It may look like jealousy, insecurity, unresolved pain, and shame they don't want to feel. And instead of facing it internally, they project it externally onto other people. Carl Jung talked about something called projection. He said that we refuse to see, accept, or integrate into ourselves. We unconsciously place it onto others. So when somebody constantly criticizes, mocks, or judges, or gossips, it's often not about the other person at all. It's all about that part of themselves that they haven't yet made peace with. Projection isn't always malicious. Most of the time it's actually unconscious. But unconscious behavior still has impact. Bullying didn't end in high school. It actually got better disguises. It became sarcasm, it became concern, it became jokes that cut just deep enough to become deniable plausibility. It became eye-rolling, side comments, and gossip. Whispers framed as bonding. And it became silence when somebody actually really needed some support. Same behavior, same avoidance, just a different setting. And this is where it connects to the body. Joe Dispenza teaches that every emotion that we repeatedly feel creates a chemical state within the body. So when somebody emotionally offloads onto you, they're not just speaking words. They're rehearsing a known emotional state. Judgment has a chemistry, superiority has a chemistry, and comparison has a chemistry as well. And the body learns it. And over time, that emotional state becomes very familiar. That's why some people just can't stop emotional offloading. And it's automatic, not because it feels good, but because it feels known and familiar. And the nervous system doesn't ask, hey, is this healthy? It just asks, hey, is this familiar? And that's why some people just can't stop emotional offloading. They don't know how to self-regulate, so they attempt to regulate through others. So they need an audience and they need agreement. They need validation through shared judgment. And it's not because they're bad people, it's because their body has learned that this emotional state equals connection. And that's called conditioning. Emotionally mature people don't need an audience in order to feel powerful. They don't need agreement in order to feel secure. They don't need somebody else to be wrong in order for themselves to feel right. They don't leak, they contain. There's a huge difference between processing something and emotional offloading. Processing asks, what is this bringing up within me? Emotional offloading asks, who can I give this to? Processing builds awareness. Offloading just re-encourages the old familiar patterns. Processing slows you down while offloading speeds you up. Processing brings responsibility inward while offloading projects it outward. And the more somebody offloads, the less capacity they have to sit in their inner world. And that's not maturity, that's emotional outsourcing. Emotional maturity is when you stop outsourcing your identity, when you no longer need comparison to feel whole, when you don't need shared concept to feel connected, when your sense of self comes from within instead of a group or pack level form of approval. Jung called this individuation. The process of becoming whole rather than living through unconscious emotional patterns. Dispenza would say this is the moment when you stop letting the body run the mind and start teaching your body a new emotional state. And it's not about suppression, it's about awareness. Silence is not weakness, and walking away is not avoidance. Not participating is not indifference. Sometimes it's containment. Sometimes it's self-respect. And sometimes it's simply clarity. The most emotional sound people that I know do not explain themselves to chaos. They don't argue against projection, and they don't defend against insecurity. They don't try to regulate other people's emotions. They simply just move themselves from what doesn't align. And that's not cold, that's regulated. When awareness enters the room, projection dissolves. When consciousness replaces emotion, old patterns lose their grip. LTAT believes that emotional maturity isn't about being polite. It's about being responsible within your own inner world. It's about noticing when you're uncomfortable and choosing to stay present instead of passing that discomfort on to other people. It's the difference between sharing the truth and leaking emotion. And when enough people learn to do that, the whole culture changes. And not through calling people out, but just through not participating in it. And that's where real growth begins.